So when I let go of my relationship in 2021 and let go of my company, and I found myself in an Airbnb with literally 2 garbage bags of clothes. That was it. I wasn't paying respect because I was doing it, got a lot of insights, but also then the ego came. Let's do it again. This is amazing. Let's have another ride.
It's interesting because obviously we're in this comfortable house and we're like, in this Western society where there's all this comfort and there's all these electrical aids to make our lives better or easier, whatever it is. But at the same time, more and more we are losing our connection to nature.
I grew up in a very dangerous family in a sense. So my entire system was always, from a very young age, very tense. So there's a lot of fear in this inner child. So keep reminding the inner child, like, it's safe now. And all of a sudden I had this, as if this voice was directly communicating with me that said, if you want to work with Cacao from the jungle, we give you the jungle. If you survive, you have your permission. January 2019, so more than a year before the lockdown, I was in the jungle and the ayahuasca said to me,
Welcome to the Spirit Unfolding podcast, where we explore the depth of the human experience, the creative energy that runs through us all, and what we can do to create a more beautiful world. My name is Lars, and every episode I sit down with a creative, pioneer or teacher in the fields of spirituality, art, health, and the natural world. We want to give you actionable insights to spiritual growth, taking ownership of your life and expanding your perspective on life's possibilities. Also, you can live a more authentic, loving, and fulfilling life. I am honored that you chose to spend your valuable time listening to the Spirit Unfolding podcast. And you would really help us by subscribing to YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast, and sharing the episode with your family and friends and on social media. Thank you so much. My guest today is Tom Verstappen, founder of Cacaosito, which shares heart-opening cacao with the world and organizes ceremonies and concerts in Amsterdam to spread more love and peace. Tom and I met through men's work, and for me, he's one of the most inspiring examples of transformation. Tom continued to show up for himself during difficult times to eventually turn the tide around and build something that's not only greater than himself, but is also serving a purpose in community and society. In this episode, we talk about the power of self-love as Tom shares some deeply personal stories about the toughest time of his life, slowly allowing himself to feel all the emotions and heal from within. Tom also opens up about how cacao and plant ceremonies have changed his outlook on life, what fatherhood has taught him, and why he's now focused on bringing people together in sacred spaces and ceremonies. I'm truly blessed to be surrounded by so many beautiful people that show me what can happen when we tune into our hearts, make the leap of faith, and connect to something bigger. And Tom is definitely one of them. I hope you will really enjoy this episode. Let's dive in. Tom, welcome.
thank you, Lars.
Very happy to have you here. And you're just an inspirational person to me when it comes to putting out stuff in the world that you believe in and that is helping people get closer to their hearts, connecting each other, to themselves, and making a difference in a beautiful way. So I think I want to start with it's funny when we didn't really know each other that well yet, but when I first met you, I think it was like 3-4 years ago, when on your Instagram handle at the time, at least it said, like, if you want to change the world, go home and love yourself.
Yeah.
Not an original quote, but someone, or maybe many people said this at some point in history.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, I was still in this mode of, I want to change the world, I want to change other people, and I had this illusion that this was, feasible. And like, it's interesting and funny to me, like, as my, let's say, spiritual awakening has continued over the last couple of years, more and more I've realized just how true that statement really is. I think I want to start with, like, can you share, how did you come to that conclusion, like the importance of self-love, and what did it take to get there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I feel very humbled, also very excited. A little bit nervous. It's my first podcast. And yeah, let's go straight into the depth. The quote on my profile says, if you want to change the world, go home and love yourself. But it's slightly adjusted because the quote that I read was, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family, which is also very deep. But when I read it, it was also very confronting because I just came out of a divorce with my ex, and we have a beautiful daughter who is living with my ex. So for me, reading that quote, go home and love your family, while just coming out of a divorce, being a single father, living by myself, was very confronting and painful. And that I thought, this doesn't resonate for me because when I go home, there's no family. And so the only person that's at home is me. So the only person that I can love in that particular situation to change the world is me. And not from an egocentric or narcissistic point of view, but just really love the person that I am, but also loving the child that resides in me, the little boy that just wants love and attention. And so it's I think in the end everything boils down on self-love, and all the conflicts that we find ourselves in, the mistakes that we make, the triggers, the abuse, the addictions, all come down because of a lack of self-love, or trying to find the self-love in external supplies.
Yeah, filling the hole that we consciously and unconsciously feel in our hearts with externalities, with materialism, with trying to get certain things from other people.
Exactly. Yeah. And this divorce came after in the lockdown, but after I chose to sell my company, which was severely hit by the government regulations in 2020. I was in the business of bringing people together. So I had different venues in Amsterdam and Rotterdam that I was renting out to corporates, but also my own events. Yeah. So I was literally in the business of bringing people together on a physical level. And all of a sudden, bringing people together was illegal.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it all moved to Teams and Zoom. And we back then experienced a revenue drop of 100%. Not like 60, 70, 80, but the entire business shut down. So it was a very stressful, painful situation. And I realized that before that, I was living the life. I was what society would say successful. Made a lot of money. Experienced a lot of growth in terms of profit and revenue and status and impact. But inside I was very deprived, very lonely. I had to take a lot of substances to keep the machine going. So a lot of drugs, seeking for external validation, superficial relationships with women. Because I was in the impression that I had to find this love, I could only find it by external sources. So COVID hit, the lockdown, divorce, my entire life shattered in 1,000 pieces. Also mentally, physically, I was really on the edge of really collapsing, really towards suicidal, and that was the moment I realized, like, I can only find it inside. It's very cliche, it's very simple, but the thing with cliches is that they are, most of the time, they are true. The quotes that we see on Instagram that touches us, most of the time they are very true, but I believe you have to go through certain experiences to really feel that it's true. I can tell you, go home and love yourself, and you can say, yeah, well,
yeah, that's exactly what it was for me. Like the first time I saw it, it was like, oh, it sounds really nice, but like surely it's also really important to have an impact outside of yourself, and it's probably not important, and da.
Yeah.
And I had a sort of similar, where I had been in this mindset of like working a lot and doing like 10 things at the same time, and also like in that sort of, let's say, that how society classically looks at success. I was very successful, but actually my body was close to burnout. I was like, I think I was definitely happy in the sense that I was doing a lot of things that I loved, but I didn't know what it was to sit still for even 1 hour, let alone a day or a week. My holidays would be like, you know, I would still drive like, let's say 5,000 kilometers in like 10 days to visit 5 countries and see every sunset and sunrise with my camera. And like, it was like, you know, what people would, some of my friends at the time said like, oh, everyone's on holiday and Lars is on an expedition. And that was really what it was like. And I didn't really, I didn't yet learn to listen to the signals of my body that were telling me to slow down.
Yeah.
Until, for me, the same, like in this, my company didn't fully collapse, but there was also like, you know, I was kind of forced to sit still in the lockdown period. And that's when I also recognized a similar feeling of like, oh shit, there's a lot here that needs work. And that is actually, you know, the intelligence of the body is trying to tell me something.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. So some people they go for drugs and other people go for sunrises. So
yeah.
Why was it that you couldn't sit still? What would happen, you think, if you look at it right now?
I think it was a combination of the addiction to like the rush, the constant newness, constant new things, and maybe actually also just the actual like physical, like adrenaline and those kind of
the dopamine.
Dopamine. But also on a deeper layer, what I noticed as soon as I really started to sit still was like, oh, there is a lot of tension in my body. And then learning that, like, okay, going into that, what does that mean? And through like a friend and my girlfriend at the time, I was kind of introduced to like, okay, maybe it's actually good to see like what do you call this? A psycholoog? What is this in English?
Psychologist?
Psychologist, exactly. Thank you. So to see a psychologist, and that is also working with the body. So it's not about just sitting on a chair and talking, but it's about like, you know, tapping into the wisdom of the body. And that really taught me that I was literally standing on my toes or walking on my toes, maybe for as long as I could remember, and brought me back to like this period of childhood where I was being bullied, and that I think that trauma was never really released. So that whole sort of process started, and in that process I was also like realizing that there is more than just the physical. There's more than I am not the body, but I'm actually a soul that is temporarily using this body. And I was having like more like spiritual experiences and realizing like, oh, there is, I was, I think, really afraid to be alone.
Yeah.
But through like practices of meditation and also some plant medicine experiences, I really felt that I'm not alone. No. You're always connected to everything and everyone. Yeah. And that gave space to let go a bit more.
Yes.
But it's still, it's interesting how stubborn it is, because now we're like 4 or 5 years ahead, and it's still, there's still this urge sometimes to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing that for 25 years.
Yeah.
So it's really like constantly about checking in, like listening to the body, like, okay, my mind says this, but what does the body tell me?
Yeah. Yeah, the healing is not a linear process. Huh?
No.
It's getting up and falling, getting up and falling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being very compassionate towards yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And how was that for you as you you realized like I have to go within?
Yeah.
What happened?
I had some, you know, I was living on the left lane of the highway for many years, and because of my business and also the need for dopamine, and I also went on the high lane of let's say personal growth. So I looked up for all the extremes that I could find in the realm of healing, and I instantly went for it. For example, Vipassana. Some people, they go on a meditation course, or they download an app and they go sit for 10 minutes a day just to experience it. I went without any experience with meditation or sitting still or going into my body. Went for Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent retreat, waking up at 4 in the morning, going into meditation until 9:30, 10 in the evening, no talking, no eye contact, just meditating and scanning the body up and down, which really in a way shows how I was living, always going for the extremes. Also, when the plant medicine came in my realm, I didn't go only once for an ayahuasca ceremony. I went 27 times in 3 years. I went to the Amazon.
Oh my God.
And these tools, Vipassana and Ayahuasca, are very powerful and can really change your course of life and really benefit you. But they can also be very harmful if they are abused, like I did. Because I was using those tools the same as I was using everything else, just filling up the void, filling up the emptiness, the hole that I felt inside. So I got into quite some problems, challenges because of the Vipassana. I unlocked a severe anxiety, panic attacks all of a sudden during the meditation. And also with ayahuasca, I came back from the Amazon, and it became very difficult for me to integrate in what I say, the real jungle, which is Amsterdam. Amazon is not a jungle. The real jungle is the concrete jungle, is Amsterdam, or the Western society. So that became very challenging. And the reason I'm telling this, when this moment happened that everything shattered, I had those experiences, I had those tools, but I realized this is not going to work anymore, because I'm constantly running away. Then I'm going to the meditation, then I'm going to the mushrooms, then to the ayahuasca. But I was constantly neglecting the part that really needed some attention, and that was just the body. And that what resides in the body, which is, I believe, the inner child. The inner child manifests itself in the body, and I was neglecting it for many years. And now, after experiencing all those different healing practices, for me, the truth eventually is just sitting still and observe what's going on. I just allow the breath and just feel. And sometimes talking with an expert, psychologist, or a coach, or someone who guides you is very beneficial. But in the end, it's for me, it's feeling. That which is the truth. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to incorporate now. But I also have a very strong ego, and still make mistakes, and still neglect myself every now and then. And then, because I became so sensitive and in tune with my body, the body instantly pulls me back. Because if I push myself to limits, there's like this invisible hand that says, "Hold on, buddy. Huh? What did we agree upon? Huh? You're going to make the same mistakes again out of your ego?" Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but then just.
Oh, I love it. Like, also the whole inner child thing is so interesting, because I think, in our Western society, it's also bloody serious, and we're all supposed to like keep up with the Joneses and have this whole idea of, oh, you're supposed to know what you're going to do for work when you're like picking, maybe when you're 12 already.
Yeah, your profile.
Because it's about like, are you going to go to this school or that school, or what profile you're going to go into, at least where we live in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And then like it's all set up to like you're supposed to tick off all these boxes, and then when everything's done and all the energy is sort of been taken out of you, and you're like 65 or even 70, and you stop working.
Yeah.
Then you get to relax and enjoy life.
Enjoy life.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
And in that whole process, I think we all so much lose the contact with the inner child.
Yeah.
And it's so important to keep that connection because there's so much wisdom there.
Yeah.
And there's so much like knowing about what is okay for me to do and what is not, what is safe and what is not okay. But also just for me, it's really to check in with my inner child is part of the recipe to really enjoy life.
Yeah.
To know like, okay, how can I make this day more playful?
Yeah.
Or how can I give myself a bit more compassion and a bit more openness? So like, is there a particular practice that you do, or how has that road been for you when it comes to inner child?
The word that activated me, you said, is to be more playful, more, and that's a really big challenge for me because I'm a very strong head type, and I look at the world and I'm worried, but to not take it so serious. That's for me something that I have to remind myself of every day. Just laugh about all the bullshit in the outer world, but also the stories that I tell myself, all the paranoias, all the blah 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 blah. Just laugh about it, because I'm 37 right now. I realized the most pivotal moments of my life were totally out of my control. Just happened. Becoming a father, with the lockdown, starting a business, what I'm doing now. What I'm doing right now in my life, I couldn't think of it 2 years ago. It just happens. It just happens. And so just surrender, be compassionate towards myself, that I don't know, well, not anything, but don't know a lot, and I'm still learning, and really compassionate in allowing everything that's inside, and not like I'm a man, so I have to be tough and masculine and strong and know it all, but also really allow the vulnerable parts, the fear that is inside. Yeah, the fear. You talk about the inner child. I grew up in a very dangerous family, in a sense. Yeah, dangerous in a way that I couldn't really be safe. A very intense divorce between my parents at the age of 4. A father that never took responsibility for his own shit inside and projected everything on either my mother or us as very little children. Also, alcohol was played a big role in that. So my entire system was always, from a very young age, very tense, and knew, okay, there's a threat. There can be a threat, and I see the bottle of wine opening up. So what's gonna happen? So there's a lot of fear in this inner child. So keep reminding the inner child, like, it's safe now. There's a new adult, which is me. It's not my father anymore. It's not my mother anymore. Now it's me, and I will protect you, and I will take care of you. And that's something that is, a very, very, for me, a very powerful tool. And it's not like a cheat code or a trick. It's something that I really have to remind myself of, that the fear that I encounter, and as a response of that, the anger or the rage that I feel towards politicians or the people that cut me off on the highway, has nothing to do with the politicians. Has nothing to do with the people in traffic. It's something that's deep down inside. So, it's a daily practice to be just very aware of all the emotions that are residing and being activated inside of my system, that every single one of them are directly related to what happens in childhood. Yeah. And the people that I'm in conflict with, so for example, I have an amazing girlfriend, and the thing with amazing relationships is that every now and then you are in a conflict, but just realizing, like, she's only pushing the buttons. but the trigger and the emotion has nothing to do with her. That's very old. It's very old. So that's it's a beautiful process, but also very challenging. Yeah, to feel everything, that's challenging. Yeah, because of the work, you start to feel everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly all comes to the surface. And if you're just super unconscious and you just have your 9 to 5 job and you go to office and you only live here, and this is just
an appendix.
an appendix to transport yourself from A to B, it's very easy.
Yeah.
But the moment you start feeling everything, it's beautiful, very painful, very threatening, but it's my definition of being alive. Yeah, being alive.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, 100%. It's really true that once you start to not run away anymore, and like really accept that all those like the pain and the tougher parts of life are actually there to be lived through them, and that are also the things that give you actually the most positive emotions as well once you've been through them. Because you realize, hey, I'm still fucking alive, man.
Another cliche, but it's very true. Yeah.
So how is you talked a little bit about like plant medicine and ayahuasca. I'm interesting. It's interesting, like, because you felt like, okay, that was also part of running away, and at the same time, for me and my experience with Mother Ayahuasca, it's definitely also been. She's definitely shown me a lot of things as well that are very important that I've learned a lot about life, about myself. How's that been for you?
She is an amazing teacher, very powerful. And they call her the grandmother. And they call her the grandmother for a reason, because grandmothers can be amazing, very nourishing and loving. But if you don't pay respect to grandparents, you'll get you can get punished. And I wasn't paying respect because I was doing it. Got a lot of insights, but also then the ego came. Let's do it again. This is amazing. Let's have another ride in the roller coaster again and again. Okay, let's go. Not only watching the trailer, but let's see the real movie. Let's go to the Amazon. And the Amazon, I did it in January 2019, a dieta. So you're going to fast and you do a diet, and there are many ways to do it, but I think in the proper way, the indigenous way, your body is getting tested and you get to work, do a diet with different plants, because we all know the ayahuasca and maybe the San Pedro and the peyote, but there are many master plants, but they are not psychedelic. So a lot of people don't pay attention to those. So you get to test, the shaman tests your body, and then you get appointed a certain, let's say a cocktail of different plants that you need to work with. So it's the ceremonies with the ayahuasca, but in between you're drinking this brew of different plants. In my case, it was the Murere, Agosacha, and the Bobinsana. They don't work on a conscious level, but they work on your unconsciousness. So you're purging, and I was there for 3 weeks. Very powerful. I got a lot of insights, and I told in the beginning about this collapse of my company because of the lockdown. January 2019. So more than a year before the lockdown, I was in the jungle, and the ayahuasca said to me, quit your company. Sell it. It's not serving you anymore. It's not your soul purpose, your mission, your alignment, your whatever. Quit it. So that was an interesting insight, because my ego said, hell no. You know how much money I make. You know how much opportunities we have because of this company, and I have this big event space where I can host my own events without having to pay rent, and we're growing and the market is growing. But ayahuasca was very clear. And I don't know if the ayahuasca is an amplification of your unconsciousness or it's really an external source that's talking to you. There are different theories about that, but it was a very clear message. So I came home back in Amsterdam, and I gathered all the people that were working at the company and said, "Yeah, this is my insight. I'm not gonna cut off directly, but I want to give it some time. So I'm gonna work for 4 or 5 months, and then after 4 or 5 months, I'm gonna really decide whether I continue or not. So 4 or 5 months in Amsterdam, my ego took over again. So after 4 or 5 months, I said, I'm not gonna sell. I'm not crazy. So I ignored the message of the ayahuasca, maybe the message of my body, my unconscious, and I continued. And then within a week, I got a severe burnout. I got the feeling as if I had I don't know how a heart attack feels, but as if this hand that I also spoke about grabbed my heart and it didn't let go for weeks. So I barely couldn't move again. So the plants are extremely powerful tools, and if you have insights in ayahuasca ceremonies, take them serious. Take them very serious, although they can be very uncomfortable because the ego doesn't want to break up this relationship or sell this company or start this relationship or start this company, but pay very close attention. And therefore, I think they are very powerful. But also for people like me who don't take the messages that we get serious and don't integrate what we learn, but just go on to the next ceremony, yeah, they will get their ass whooped sooner or later. I got my ass whooped in this way, but also it was very hard for me to, because you open up when you start working with psychedelics. You become more sensitive, you feel more, but you also get rid of the protection layer that you have, your aura in a way. I had to go to different energy healers, and they told me, "Hey Tom, your aura is like cheese with a lot of holes in it. So we need to fix it. But maybe you should consider to cool down on the plants." So very powerful tools, but pay respect. Do it with the right people. So if it's some self-proclaimed shaman in Rotterdam on the 6th floor in an apartment building that says, "Hey, I'm a shaman," it can be Western people, but they have to be initiated by the indigenous maestros, the shamans. So they have to be very strict, I think, with the lineage and the practices.
And the care around it, for sure.
The care, yeah, the respect, and also the integration. That what I lacked was just going to the Amazon, beautiful insights, and then good luck in Amsterdam. For me, that was very very challenging. Yeah. So is it something I would encourage for everyone? No, probably not. I think you have to be very grounded. If you are prone to, for example, psychosis, or you have psychosis in your family, don't go into plant medicine.
And I think it's also about, like, I heard about it like years before I actually went.
Yes.
Like, there is this moment where you just feel somewhere deep inside, like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And maybe that will never come, and then maybe it's just not for you.
Yeah.
But like, because there was obviously I was also still in this part of like, I want to do all these experiences, and like whether it's spiritual or not, there's like, as long as it's new and it's exciting, I'm in for it. But that's the head, that's the ego.
Yeah.
That's this part of you that, you know, is constantly looking for something external, but is not listening to what's deep inside. So definitely a big difference. Yeah.
How was it for you? The moment that you felt like this is it? What happened there?
It was this. It's quite subtle feeling, but there was this little bit of this pull of like, there's something there that I need to experience. And it was interesting for me that I didn't, when I actually went, which was a couple of months later, it wasn't, I didn't experience it in the sense of like an actual voice or something talking to me, but it was way more visual. But I really had this profound, deep visual and feeling of like everything is connected. It was like we're all part of the same, and also to see that the dark part of the energies in the universe, in the world, are also only looking to survive. And it's all, in a way, perfect. It's all needed for us to evolve. If there's nothing that challenges us, then there's no reason to get better at anything. There's no reason to look anywhere. Like, like we talked about, when you're sitting down and you actually feel like, you feel your body speaking to you.
Yeah.
It's that pain that starts to move us forward.
Yeah.
If there's only comfort, no one's ever going anywhere.
Extremely boring. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And for me, it's really been like, I've only gone once. It was 2 evenings in the Netherlands. But I felt like this has been a couple of years ago now, but it's something that feels like the integration never really stops. Like sometimes there's still like something that wasn't inside before hits on a new layer or something, a deeper layer. Yeah. So it's interesting, and for the most part, what it's just done is really made me feel like trust life more. Yeah. And have a lot more compassion for others.
Yeah, beautiful.
I was very much in this sense of seeing others as the, not part of me, not connected to me, completely different to me. And it's really about like survival in this world. It's about like, if someone else wins, in business or in whatever, and that means that I will lose. All these bullshit narratives that for some reason were, I picked up somewhere. And it's more and more giving me this feeling of, no, we're actually all the same. We're actually all, like, of course there's differences, but in the end, we're all just looking to love and be loved. Yes. We're all just looking to have peace inside our hearts and have a clear head and make something beautiful out of the world. Yeah. And even those that from the outside look like that's not there, it's just because they're hurt. Yeah. They've experienced certain things in their life that is, that are so traumatizing or so hard or so heavy for them. Maybe even, coming from family lineages or previous lives or whatever it is. But those things were so heavy that they just inhibit them from doing any better, if you want to can even call it that way. Like, this is just what they're able to do now. Yeah. And that's so interesting because when over the years I've realized like, oh, actually, I was a dick before to women, for example, in a certain period of my life, because I was looking to extract something. Yeah. I wasn't treating them with as much respect as they deserved. No. But at the time I didn't realize. Yeah. At the time I thought it was totally okay. Yeah. It's totally just what I was taught by the people I had around me at the time, that this was normal. And obviously, like, I wasn't, there wasn't any abuse or anything, but like, I wasn't seeing the connection between a man and a woman as a sacred thing as I do it now. It's a very different thing. And I think, we met through men's work, and I think there, for me, has really come this this realization of, you have a duty as a man, and there's like, you need a woman. You need women in the world and we need this feminine energy, and it is something that is healing for us if you allow your heart to be opened and let it touch you. Yeah, 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 beautiful. And also the women in our lives are a reflection of our own inner feminine. And our inner feminine, I believe, is the integration of our mother. So it's also, let's generalize this. If I keep on attracting toxic women and say, oh, all these women, blah, 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 and project on them, now it's the inner feminine in me that attracts women that have certain qualifications, which are not necessarily positive. And that means there's something inside of me that still needs some love and attention, which is my inner feminine, which is the internalization of my mother.
so you could say the relationship that I had with my mother as a child.
Yeah, and then not to say it's your mother's fault that these things are happening, but
It's no one's fault.
No, of course not. No.
Because if it's someone else's fault, you avoid the opportunity to heal something inside of you. Because then you place responsibility outside of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. And I also did for a long time, to just put judgment and blame on my parents. But then again, at the end of the day, it doesn't solve anything. Yeah, the poor childhood, I'm a victim, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can get there still, like getting in the victim mode.
Of course, it's a continuous practice.
Yeah.
I don't think almost anyone is ever 100% out of it.
And then back to compassion. Yeah, back on the horse of compassion.
And you talk about parents, but of course it's the same with the society of, like, what you mentioned before, like the politicians or whatever it is, like how certain things are happening that are, whether it's war or poverty or hunger or any of the horrors that are going on. Yes, they're very bad. And I think it's also important to actually speak out about it, because it's maybe the speaking up won't actually change the actions of the people that are doing it, but it will help wake other people up and realize like, oh, that's a new perspective that is teaching me something. But I've really experienced over the last like 1 or 2 years, like if you stop blaming others and really go look at yourself, like why is this hurting so much? That's where there is the most to gain for your own experience, because it's really true that once you heal the parts within yourself, it doesn't really matter anymore what happens outside. It can still hurt. Of course, it still hurts if you see, the horrors of a war and a kid being, like amputated or whatever, like those horrible things. It still can really hurt, but it's okay to to feel the hurt, the pain, and let it flow through, and then let go as well, and not take over your life.
I hear what you say, and I believe it's true, but I still find it very challenging to see psychopaths in power committing genocide and then saying, well, the reason I'm triggered by what they are doing because they reflect a part of me that's not being seen yet or is not being healed yet. I in a sense, I know it's true, because there's also a psychopath inside of me, inside of you. There's even a murderer inside of everyone, if you just push enough buttons. But I still find it very challenging. Or when I walk in the streets and I see someone like a homeless drug addict, and I get triggered by that because they aggressively ask me for money or something. I get triggered by that, and then to say, well, yeah, the reason I'm triggered is because they reflect something inside of me.
Of course, it's also something that is actually maybe wrong on the outside. Of course, it's not to say that that's how it's supposed to be, or that's okay.
But the funny thing is, when we drink ayahuasca, it's all, of course we're all connected, and it's all love. Yeah.
We talk about ayahuasca, but we just had a beautiful cacao as well before we started.
Yes, not a plant medicine.
Yeah.
For
a lot of people, maybe it's just an ingredient of chocolate milk, but it's actually, if you use it in the right way, it's way more powerful than that. How was the journey for you to get to cacao and doing what you do now?
So when I had to let go of my relationship in 2021 and had to let go of my company, and I found myself in an Airbnb with literally 2 garbage bags of clothes. And that was it. No income, no family, no house, no reason to get up, no purpose. I clearly saw 2 paths in front of me, and it was either the path of destruction, going into the victim, and the anger towards the politicians and what the injustice, and just getting into drugs and women and just destroy myself, to put it very extreme. And the other path was okay, Apparently this is supposed to happen, so let's make the best of it. And I'm sitting here, so I chose for that path, obviously. And so I really started I can be very rigid, very disciplined. So incorporating the practices on a daily level, on a daily basis. So my meditation, my breath work, the cold was a very big teacher for me, because you can have a lot of thoughts and a lot of paranoias, but the moment your body enters the cold water, it's only the breath that will save you. And another thing was, I experienced it a few times before in ceremony, but was cacao. So I thought, let's make it a daily habit to drink a cup of cacao instead of coffee, instead of alcohol. So in order to get into touch with myself, to think of something that I feel grateful for, and that's very hard in moments of despair. To if your world collapses, to say, well, what am I grateful for? But eventually you will come up with a list. I mean, maybe the sun is shining. I don't know. And just my daily practice, daily routine became drink a cup of cacao. And why cacao? Because I knew from my previous experiences with the ceremonies that it did something on the bodily level. I felt very good after drinking cacao. So that's what I did. And therefore, and of course, other reasons, and a lot of support from beautiful people, I came out of this period stronger, and cacao was a lifesaver for me, next to other tools and people. So fast forward 2 years later, I traveled to Uganda without planning. A friend of mine, he was planning to go to Uganda to climb Mount Stanley, and with his cousin, and his cousin had an injury in the brain, so the doctor said, you can't fly. So 1 week before departure, he said, hey, do you want to come? I have this all fixed, and you don't have to take care of anything. I got all the equipment. You just have to be a Schiphol at the right time. So I thought, okay, thank you, universe. Let's go to Uganda. Let's see on the map. Okay, there it is. So I traveled to Uganda, and a few things happened. Uganda, beautiful country, beautiful people, beautiful nature. A few things happened. I had a very, let's say, spiritual experience by traveling for 1 day deep into the jungle with a guide and a small group, and eventually being face to face with a family of the silverback gorillas, which is something impossible to describe. The feeling to be in nature, in the natural habitat of such a powerful animal, the strength, the energy that, especially from the big male, just knowing that he can crush every bone in your body if he wants to within a split second, but being so close towards him, like just 2 meters, him and his wife and his children, was so touching, so humbling to feel and see and experience the force of nature, and how the beauty, the beauty, and that he allowed us in. And also realizing what we as humans are doing to him and his natural habitat. Their estimates that there are only 500 silverback gorillas living in that jungle. So Rwanda, Congo, and Uganda. It was so touching, and also the realization, like everything, the downfall that I experienced, all the things that I had to let go of, made me eventually arrive here in the jungle of Uganda, face to face with a gorilla. If anything else happened in a different way, I wouldn't be here. So getting into touch with this holy faith, like whatever happens, you will end up in a beautiful place. No matter how hard the experiences are and how much things you have to let go of on the mostly ego level, you will be rewarded. So that realization was so touching, so such a deep spiritual experience. And then I learned that, of course, the biggest threat for the gorillas are humans, and in specifically the cutting down of the rainforest. And why are humans cutting down the rainforest? Because they want to plant banana trees, coffee trees, and all kinds of trees to sustain themselves and their families. And so we can get bananas in the Albert Heijn. But I also learned that there's a thriving cacao industry in Uganda, and organic without pesticides. And instead of going on an industrial scale, chopping down the rainforest and planting thousands of cacao trees, they grow it in another system which is called agroforestry. So in between the jungle, they plant the different trees. So they maintain the jungle, and the trees of the cacao grow in between the other trees. So the natural habitat of the gorillas and all the other primates that are living there, animals and birds and everyone else, keeps intact. So I thought, wow, this is beautiful. That instead of chopping it down so we can have our chocolate bar, we can maintain the jungle and we can drink our cacao. So that's what I learned, and I was very inspired. And I came back and I thought, well, I'm so intrigued by this. I'm such a big fan of cacao. I'm already doing small cacao ceremonies. Maybe this is the sign. So back in Amsterdam, 1 week later, I was working. I work in a juice bar for a few days a week, which is also very humbling. And I felt off. I felt a little bit weird. I thought, am I getting sick? Well, maybe. So 1 day later, I felt very sick. And at the end of the day, at the end of the night, so in the morning, early morning, I literally felt like dying. I thought, my soul is leaving my body. This is not going well at all. And all of a sudden, I had this thought. And the moment I had this thought, my entire nervous system just activated, exploded, as if my body said, the thought you're having is accurate. So, cliffhanger. I texted a friend, can you please bring me to the hospital? So this friend came and went to the emergency unit. And the first thing the doctor asked, where have you been? I said, Uganda. I said, oh. So he took some blood, came back in 50 minutes. He said, you have malaria. We keep you in. Very good that you came. If you would have come 1-2 days later, you would have died. Malaria is the real deal.
Holy shit, dude.
So I stayed in the ICU of the hospital for 5 days. It had something similar to the worst experiences of a plant ceremony, the worst experience of ayahuasca or iboga or San Pedro, like you're sweating and you're hallucinating, and all of a sudden I had this, as if this voice was directly communicating with me that said, if you want to work with cacao from the jungle, we give you the jungle. If you survive, you have your permission. It felt as if I was being initiated by the jungle. And the most intense way of being initiated by the jungle is, of course, surviving the most tropical, harmful, lethal disease known to mankind, which is malaria. It's also very funny that the most dangerous animal to the world, people think lions or rhinos or hippos or crocodiles, it's a mosquito. It's a very small mosquito. So I survived, and that was for me the cue. Okay, cacao, Uganda, let's go. And I just opened up to the universe, like, okay, let's find a supplier that can get cacao beans from Uganda and turn it into flakes so we can have our ceremonial cacao. And that worked out fine. And now I have a beautiful brand, which is called Cacaosito, and selling cacao. And also organizing, and that's mostly my main intention is not to sell cacao, but my main intention is to bring people together. What I've been doing basically my entire life, bring them together and provide them an experience of which I think it will benefit them. So back in the days, it was school parties, techno parties. I even brought in shamans to do ayahuasca ceremonies. And now I think also where I am right now in my life, what benefits people most is to connect with their hearts, to connect with the music, medicine music in a sacred place while drinking cacao. Because cacao can amplify this experience. They say in the spiritual world, cacao is a heart opener. But the fun thing is, cacao is literally a heart opener because it contains theobromine. And theobromine is a substance that dilates the blood vessels. So you will pump more blood to your heart. So it opens your heart more to your brain. So you get more cognitive skills. And yeah, so that's basically my story with cacao. I drink it almost every day. It's an amazing substitute for coffee. If you still want to have the focus and like a little bit energy, but you don't want to have the side effects of coffee, which can be very, it releases a lot of cortisol, adrenaline, so it can become very stressful if you drink too much coffee, and it's pretty addictive. And the problem with coffee is also you get a crash. When you drink coffee, within 3 hours, you need another cup, basically. With cacao, it's much more subtle, so you don't have the high peak, but you also don't have the crash. And it spans over a period of 5 hours. So I believe cacao is a very powerful tool, just like the ayahuasca, but in a level that's more accessible for more people. Because I don't think everyone should do ayahuasca, but I think everyone should drink cacao every now and then. And there's also a prophecy from the Mayas that when the balance between the masculine and the feminine is off in the world, which we see in many layers right now in the world, cacao comes from the jungle to restore this balance. And I think,
wow,
I want to be a part of that restoration. Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful that they prophesied that.
Yeah.
There's so much wisdom in these old tribes.
So much truth. Yeah, for sure.
If we only learn to, well, I think we are in that process. Actually, we are learning to look at, all the wisdom that has been here for thousands of years, and that is in nature, and that is in these people that. Yeah, this whole like, it's interesting because obviously we're in this comfortable house and we're like, in this Western society where we have all kinds of clothes for all kinds of weather, and we have a car, and we have like, there's all this comfort, and there's all these like, electrical aids to make our lives better or easier, whatever it is. But at the same time, more and more we are losing our connection to nature, and like to the extreme that some people like literally don't know where milk comes from or have never seen a chicken, let alone be in nature for like 2 days, or like, walked in nature for a week, or camped somewhere, or just learn to really immerse themselves in the actual world. And it's, I feel like, I'm also like, I don't want to give up the house. I don't want to live like on, in the forest without anything over my head.
No.
But there is, I think, a balance of like, can we look more towards nature, and what can we learn there, and sharpen our senses in that sense, and learn to know what is really important in life. Yeah. And I love like you've organized a few concerts and cacao ceremonies together in one evening already, to feel what it does to a crowd.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
To have a couple of hundred people coming in, some people know each other, the majority probably doesn't know each other, and to feel this sense of wholeness and love, and to get a glimpse of perhaps a future world.
Yes.
In one evening is beautiful. Yeah.
And we can elaborate and preach about being connected and we're all one. But where do we sense that in our daily lives? In the supermarket, or in the dating apps, or in our office. So we need to create spaces, or I feel there's my mission to create spaces where people can actually meet on this level. Yeah, because we are so disconnected from ourselves and therefore from each other or many people. And I think the healing is to connect with ourselves and with each other again, and in a place where we feel very relaxed and open and warm. And how was it for you? The because you've been to both of the concerts.
Yes.
How was it for you and your girlfriend?
Beautiful. It was, well, the first time I was filming, obviously, so it was different. But I love to be in that role as well, because I actually get to be in like, I get to be in the crowd as everyone else, but I also get to look at everything and feel it from different angles, which is really special and something that really always excites me when I'm doing these kinds of things. And I really felt like both times I really felt this familiarity, like this sort of, like literally like this feeling of family, of, hey, we're all here, we're coming for the same thing, and we're coming to bring the same thing, the same energy. And it's every time there's a few people that I meet that that I'm keeping connected with afterwards.
Beautiful.
And that's quite special.
That's my intention.
Yeah, because most concerts, you're just gonna go there and you're gonna go with your girlfriend or some friends, or you're gonna be in your little group and you're pretty much ignoring everyone else, or even even not being happy that they're in front of you, between you and the stage or whatever, at the most extreme. But here it's like, oh, hey, I'm welcome, and I'll have a, you can sit here and I'll move around a little bit, and what brought you here? And like there's a certain thing that happens because you make it so intentional, that it attracts certain people. And once we're all there, we feel the intention, we feel the energy, and it just shifts something. And that's beautiful.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
really touched by your experience. Because it confirms my vision as well. Affirms.
Yeah. And we talked a while ago. We talked a little bit when you went to Medicine Festival in the UK. When you just came back and you said like, maybe we should do that here. It's very big, obviously. It's like 5,000 or 6,000 people or something like this. What is your vision for going forward without going back into the old self that is only working and ignoring the body or the now?
Yeah, the thing is with this work and the choices that I consciously or unconsciously made, it's as if you walk through a door that only goes one way. So I can't go back to just thinking about let's make money and set up a business in order to sustain myself financially. I'm a father, and I question myself, like, if my daughter is 16 and I don't know where the world is in 12 years, I can go many directions. But if she asks me the question, like, hey, Daddy, what did you do in times of turmoil? What was your role in this? What did you do to prevent it or to make it a better place? I want to give her a good answer. I don't want to tell her, well, yeah, I was trading Bitcoins and just look at my bank account. That won't be my story. And if other people decide to do that, because by trading Bitcoins or trading anything else, you can sustain your family. So it's a good answer in a sense.
Maybe it's part of what you can do, but it's definitely not the only thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my skill is or my, well, it's a skill in the sense that I've been doing it for so long. It's bringing people together. And so makes a lot of sense that's something that I'm doing right now. What is my vision? Well, I have a list of artists that just are amazing, that have never been in Holland. And they are touching many hearts, millions of people on Spotify and with their medicine music. I would love to bring them in. I believe also that Cacao can be a very useful tool in the corporate world. That if people who are having a meeting and talk about, hey, how can we increase our shareholders' revenue? Because that's the bottom question in every company. How can we increase
The amount of money we
the
have.
amount of
Yes.
money? If they would drink, instead of 7 cups of coffee, 1 cup of cacao, they might make different decisions at the end of the day. Just on a small level. But I also, it's the concerts for the community, but also this corporate world, because we can say, well, we are separated, we are conscious people and spiritual world, and people in the Zuidas and the bankers, and they are bad, but they are also just
A product of their environment.
and really deprived boys and girls in an adult body, seeking for love and attention, and their conditioning is, their belief is, if I make enough money, I feel loved and get the attention. That's their wiring, and we have our own wiring. And I might think, if I just fill up enough churches with medicine music, I might feel love and attention. So we all have our our ways to deal with our inner child. So, but I want to build a bridge between what some people say the matrix world and the spiritual world. And I think we're all spiritual beings. Some people, they don't know it yet or enough, but then we are here to remind them or to show them the way, not from the moral high ground because we know it all, because we don't know shit, of course. And I think cacao can be that bridge, because if you would go to the corporate world, say, hey, you should do ayahuasca, or you should go meditate for 10 days in a monastery, they'll say, yeah, you're crazy. But if you have a very nice drink that tastes well, and they will instantly feel better, and they still have their focus, and they still can work for 8 hours, well, that might be an interesting opening for them. So that's also my vision, to bring it into the corporate world. Yeah. So if anyone's working here or is listening to this podcast, and I think, hey, I'm in the corporate world, then please reach out to me and ask, hey, tell your story and bring the cacao. Huh?
I love that. I love the whole concept of bridging, because it's otherwise you just create more islands of people that are already doing the same and keep doing the same. Yeah. But that's not like that's, yes, there is connection, but there is still connection within groups, but not between groups.
Yeah.
And I think also there's something I realized at some point in my work as a filmmaker, doing all this commercial work, was like, some of these companies that are reaching out to me might not have, they're also money. There's like matrix companies. They're very money based. They're maybe like, not making certain decisions. They're making certain decisions that I wouldn't make when it comes to like, what are they communicating? What are they choosing? All this, for example, climate change BS and whatever. But what is the alternative is to ignore them and like let someone else do that and only focus on, let's say, the spiritual community and work there, or choose to be like, okay, no, wait, how can I bring more heart and more feeling and more emotion into these companies and let these people experience a different side of life, or like a different perspective. It doesn't have to be a 180 shift. It's maybe only like 0.1 of a degree course direction, which in like 2 years can make a very big difference. If one person sees something or feels something that's might influence a certain decision, who knows what's going to happen.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree with that. And it might start with cacao, just during the meeting, and then eventually they start asking questions about where does it come from? The jungle. What else does the jungle have? Ayahuasca. Oh. And then the CEOs go drink ayahuasca, and then the shift goes really rapid, really fast. Yeah.
I love what you said before about like keeping your daughter as a let's say a guiding light, or like to keep her in mind of what you're doing. And it's also part of like bridging the worlds, like not your, let's say your work is something separate, and then you come home and you're with your family, or you're with your daughter, or you're with your partner. No, what if they're all way more connected? What if everything we do is an extension of who we are and of the core of, let's say, our soul,
Yes.
instead of I'm being different versions doing different things that are not really connected.
Yeah.
I love that. Can you go deeper into like what's it like? Because I'm not a father yet, so like I'm really curious about like, you know, what is she teaching you, and about like maybe actively, but definitely also just by being her, and what's that like?
She's definitely my biggest teacher. Yeah. She is she completely changed my perspective towards women. The moment she was born and holding her in her hands and realizing like all the women that I've encountered in my life and maybe didn't treat that well in relationships, they all were this precious little baby, and somewhere along the way things might have gone off track, and but the respect I feel for women has changed so much since having a daughter, because if I mistreat a woman, I'm indirectly also mistreating my daughter, because I'm mistreating the feminine. So that is a big learning. It's also, I believe, if you want to amplify your spiritual personal growth, becoming a parent really does it, because it's not about you anymore. You're not the most important person in the world anymore. So you have to let go of your ego, or at least big chunks of it. And that's what my daughter allowed me to do. So every decision I make in my life, where I live, what kind of work I do, with who I'm relating, how I treat myself, what I put in my body, is all questioned by how does this improve my relationship with my daughter? How does this improve me in becoming a better father? And not only now, but also in 10 years and in 20 years and in 30 years. Because I'm in my 30s now, and I realize like, if I see people of my age, my generation, that I still have a strong, healthy, conscious relationship with their parents, how powerful is that? If you are in your 30s and you still have a father or a mother that can support you and advise you and hold space for you and caress you and hold you in your arms when you just let go, can't hold on to what's happening to you, then being a parent doesn't stop when the child is 18. So therefore I'm also being very conscious of how am I treating myself. And this moment that I described, where I saw these two paths in this Airbnb, like of destruction or just facing my demons and grow, I might have taken another turn if I hadn't had a child, if I wasn't a father. So she's an amazing teacher and an amazing reflection, and she's 4 now, so she's really becoming a personality, and I see a lot of reflections in myself in her, and which is beautiful to see. And yeah, it's also for me, my childhood was quite rough. I had a very let's say irresponsible father, and she allows me to break the generational curse that I've experienced, my father experienced, probably his father and his father and his father. And that's a very, very powerful incentive. Yeah. To look at her and to feel her and to say like, I'm gonna do it differently, and I'm not gonna do it perfect. I haven't done it perfect. We are divorced, so in that sense, she's already being impacted by choices that we as parents made. But within our power, that we have and all the tools that we have, and we have a lot of tools in the time that we are living in right now. We don't have any excuses. Like our parents, they might have had excuses. Yeah, they could say, yeah, we didn't know about trauma healing and inner child work, and there was no ayahuasca and there was no vipassana. But we don't have those excuses anymore. We can't say, well, we didn't know better. We know exactly what we have to do. We have all the tools, all the resources to do it differently. So there's no excuse. So she's, yeah, she means the world to me. And yeah, it's just, while I'm saying this, I also feel a lot of, yeah. Now let's, there's also a part of me that says, yeah, well, you can express it all beautifully and put it in nice phrases and words, but dude, you've already been lacking. And then I have to go back, like, don't be compassionate towards yourself, because then again, you didn't know better. Look at the where you come from and how you're doing it right now. Just
You're doing what you can, and you choose to show up
yes,
with whatever presents itself.
Yeah.
And throughout life, more and more layers are being shown.
Yeah. And she's gonna need a therapist by the time she's 25 or 30.
Mm.
But who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
And I think you put attention on something that I think is very important to have, to acknowledge that we can't do it alone.
No.
We don't need to do it alone. That can be professional help. That can be your family, your friends, your community. Like, one of the things that I've really integrated into my life, that I've learned through the regular men's gatherings, is like, it's okay. It's actually really good to talk about feelings and insecurities and your mission, and that you're afraid to take certain steps, and that you want some guidance or some help from men that have, already done certain things that you're about to do. And I think that's such an important thing that I really feel the call to contribute more to, is for everyone to recognize that it's actually totally normal to reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling, I need help. And you don't need to solve my problem. But can you just be here for me? Can you just maybe point me to someone that you know that can help here? Those kinds of things. If we can make that more normal in our society, because just how much it's happened that there's a man coming for the first time to a gathering and expressing a version of, I've been keeping this a secret, or like, I felt like I haven't had someone to share this with for 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. And it's not like things where you would feel like, oh, that's something that you should really keep it. That can be very simple things, but it's just like if you grow up in a society where you've been taught to stand in line, to only, you're only allowed to talk when you raise your hand in school, and only allowed to go to the toilet in certain moments. And like, we're being programmed to do certain things and not do certain things. And if you're not being taught about emotional, intelligence, or like, the wisdom of the body, and learn to talk about emotions and all those things in school, for example, which, well, we definitely didn't learn that. I'm not sure what's happening now, but like, we definitely didn't learn that, like, when we were young, let alone the generations that went before us. So it's really about, can we normalize this more? I think there is a lot to gain there, and a lot of opportunity for more connection, more honesty to ourselves, to each other, to carry each other a bit, to help each other. How is it for you? So when you talking about being a father and looking at schools, thinking about this matrix system, There's a lot of different ways you can go at it now. Like there's different choices. What do you feel like is important, and where do you feel like it's going to be okay no matter what? Because there's also this part of life, that the idea of like we can, you know, we know that we can trust that whatever needs to happen will happen, and it's also going to be okay.
Yeah, maybe one way is to just be honest with your child and say that everything you learn in school is not necessarily true. And I mean, you have the option to raise your kids at home and do homeschooling, which looks very nice on paper, but in to put it in practice is very demanding and will take a lot of big sacrifice of your life, or you have to do it with a big group. I think, well, selection of school is very important, and to check up front how they address certain topics and how much certain agendas are ingrained in their education system. And but then also again, don't put too much, put all the responsibility on the teachers. And also the moment you're at home with your baby, with your child, to also teach them and learn them and make them connect with their body and maybe experience with meditation, even though they are just 8 or 9 years old. She's not there yet, but just to be very honest about the stuff. And you said about the school system where you have to sit still and raise your hand if you want to talk or need to go to the toilet. Yeah, that's a problem, because you're suppressing impulses. I need to go to the toilet, so I go, not before I get permission, or if I want to move, because my body feels like moving, I want to dance and get up and maybe fight and wrestle and shake. That's following nature, and that's being suppressed in schools. So there's little we can do about it, except for selecting the right schools or homeschooling, but just do it differently. And while you're with your children, and don't put an iPad in their hands because you don't have time or the energy to hang around with them, and just be very, very present with them, which is a challenge, because we have a lot to deal with and we're exhausted. And at the end of the day, they have more energy than we as adults, and just to be very present. Yeah.
I love that, because it really goes back also to what we started off with like, what are you actually doing yourself? What example are you setting? Yeah. What are you showing them? Are you on your phone? Well, then it's gives them the permission to also being distracted.
Yes. Yeah. And also to allow everything that she's not having that much anymore, but a year ago, my daughter had a tantrum every now and then, which is really intense, a tantrum for my 3-year-old, because it can last for 20-30 minutes and it's rage is coming out, and it doesn't make any sense why she's so angry and has this killing rage. And I think many people have the tendency to suppress it, like shut up or go in your room and cool down. But also there, when the emotions are so intense, just to remain present and even encourage it, to say, it's okay, just throw it out. Here's a caution. You want to use your fists, use your arms.
Yeah.
And to learn that at a young age, that whatever the emotion is, it's all good. If you want to scream, you scream. If you want to cry, you cry. Because the reason I'm saying this, I've been suppressing tears for years because of the conditioning, and also because I learned at a very young age that showing my primal emotions would result in punishment or isolation. You're angry, go home, go up. You're crying, boys don't cry. The usual BS. And thanks to one of my teachers, and also to Osho, who basically channeled dynamic meditation, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
With the catharsis, allowing everything that's inside, the rage, the despair, the grief. You want to cry like a baby in the floor, or you want to use a tennis racket and throw out your rage. It's so powerful. It's so liberating, and I'm relearning, remembering that as an adult now. But we can also just keep on encouraging our children to do it right now, while they're young and while they experiencing it, 'cause instead of having to suppress it and becoming very depressed and getting all kinds of chronic pains when we are getting older. Because I think a lot of diseases, maybe all of the diseases, but a lot come from suppressed emotions.
Yeah, of
and
course.
just letting it out there. Yeah, it's such a beautiful tool, and we should learn that our children at a young age. Because if we don't teach them how to release their emotions in a safe container, they'll either start using it against themselves by autoimmune disease, or they will lash out, or we will lash out against people that we care about. All of a sudden, we erupt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, just thinking about if you're a kid and you're having this, like, you don't know why she's having this tantrum. She probably also doesn't, like, there's this feeling all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's just sort of taking over her.
It's energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's probably at least as intense for her as it is for the surrounding.
Yeah.
And she needs guidance in those moments and someone to be there.
Yeah.
And if you would suppress it or say, no, it's just, you have to leave now because this is not allowed.
Yeah. That's traumatic.
It's fucking traumatic. Like she's not only having all this pain inside, but then also completely alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying this part of me is not allowed. So I have to cut off from this part of me. And that's very problematic. And that will bounce back in a later stage in her life. Yeah.
Yeah.
In pathology or a disease. Yeah.
Or at least insecurities. And changing her behavior subconsciously and being, I would say, an adapted or perhaps lesser version of who she really is.
Yeah. Trying to be the good girl. Because of the belief, like, if I'm good, if I just, I'm happy, then people will love me. But if I feel shit or sad or angry, people won't. So suppress everything. Yeah, that's just encourage for the parents, or the parents to be encourage your children to show all. Yeah, and really applaud them. Because also funny that, or interesting that after this tantrum, like 5 minutes after, she's so relaxed. She's such a Buddha. And then she just came to me like, I was very angry, yeah? Yeah, you were. I was like, okay, we're done.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a full healing cycle. Huh?
Wow.
Yeah. And the same goes for adults. After catharsis, if you break through the rage and the anger and the despair, and you reach the part of grief and the deep vulnerability, and especially for men, it's a challenge because we are so armored.
Yeah,
literally in our body. We are going. Sorry for the gym bros, but we are putting on this armor and these defenses and getting very rigid in order to feel good because of the endorphins after a workout. But the problem is we stop cutting off from the real deep feelings, the feelings of grief and the vulnerability, and that's what men should allow more. Yeah. There's the healing. That's the healing part. Yeah.
And maybe we can all start with a cup of cacao a day or every few
100%.
days.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Lars.
What is coming up for you in the next couple of months, and also please share where people can find you and the cacao and
in regards to 2025, I'm in contact with a few agents of medicine musicians, big ones, internationally, and the plan is to fly them into Amsterdam and to touch as many hearts as possible. Of course, combined with the cacao, and where to find it, Cacaosito.nl. or Cacaosito NL on Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, just send an email to tom@cacaosito.nl.
Awesome, Tom. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lars.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching or listening to the Spirit Unfolding podcast. I'm so grateful that you've joined us in this episode, and I hope that you've gained valuable insights and inspiration that you can apply to your own life. Please share it with your family, friends, and on social media. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.